both, or would they have the authority to use both? And how much, as far as cost goes, on who's doing that for city property right now?
My understanding, and I'll have to check with the Public Works Director, Dave Millender, when he gets back, but my understanding is we do use the same contractor through this contractor mechanism. We just need to pull the money from a different funding source than Beaches Energy because we're not using it for electrical services.
Okay, appreciate it.
Any other questions of council for comments from council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldie?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And item number 44, please.
I move that we approve the installation of 4-inch natural gas mains between 905 Ponte Vedra Boulevard, where our system currently dead ends, to the Publix at the shops of Palm Valley.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Stavropoulos.
Just to highlight one of the issues that was said in the title, and that is this is the dead end of our current gas system. Anytime we have the opportunity to do an expansion further to the south and west to ultimately complete the loop, so to speak, of our gas system, if we can ultimately make connection to the TECO People's Gas system to the southwest, that gives us a higher level of redundancy. It's like creating a loop in the potable water system. So this project, which again will be presented by Jameson, talks a little bit about this initiative to move further to the south and west and the properties we have the ability to pick up with this project.
Okay, as Mr. Stavropoulos mentioned, our system, we have an opportunity to close the loop at the south end. We're currently fed from TECO along Beach Boulevard to the cemetery, and then at the south end it stops on Palm Valley Boulevard and to the north and the Sunny Seagate. So this project is something that it's an initiative to expand the gas main down at A-Way and then west on Meckler Road to Publix. We did negotiate with Publix to provide $100,000 in their contribution to construction. One of the key benefits for Publix directly is that this will allow them to have 72 hours of normal power. If we were to have another Hurricane Matthew or Hurricane Irma, they can keep their goods and supplies refrigerated. We've received verbal confirmation from 3 restaurants in the same plaza that they will be utilizing natural gas for their cooking appliances. And then I'm going to put up my slides here. Let's see it on here. So this is the map, and we are currently going to extend it from here over to here. The approximate payback is just north of 6 years. And so the total cost is $491,000 minus the $100,000 contribution to construction from Publix, which takes it down to $391, divided by our estimated annual revenue of $59,000. That takes us to, like I said, a 6.61 estimated payback. Any questions, comments?
Ms. Dumont.
Yes, you said the payback would be within 6 years, and that's only with thinking about Publix, or is that with the extension of the verbal agreement with the restaurants and more use of the gas in that area?
So my understanding is this Publix, it's a 3 verbal agreements for the restaurants in the same plaza, as well as some residential development along Meckler.
Okay, so all of that combined would be the payoff in 6 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hoffman.
Are we soliciting businesses and other residents in the area to jump on board with this, or do they just know what's happening and they?
I can get a definite answer back to you. I do know that we actively engage opportunities with commercial businesses, and once the main infrastructure, the 4-inch pipe is in place, then typically residential customers in the area, they jump on board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other council questions or concerns? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Dumont?
Yes?
Councilmember Goldie?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And number 45, please.
I move that we approve the roof renovation project for the Parks Maintenance Building by Weatherproofing Technologies, Inc.
Got a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Stavropoulos.
Anytime you have a roof issue, you have 2 options. You can either replace the roof or do rehabilitation and maintenance to the roof. After some looking at the project, Mr. Fatides and his team is recommending that we do some renovation and rehab to the roof rather than a full replacement, and he will walk you through what we would be getting for this $30,000.
Jason Fatidis, Parks and Recreation. So to give you an idea, thanks to Google, we've got an overview there. That's the parking lot at the golf course. So the building is on the bottom left-hand corner in proximity both to the golf course and other sports fields. So the building was built in 1987, 42 years old. We've not replaced the roof. It's used to house the equipment for both the golf course and other parks areas, as well as the supplies, fertilizer, and things of that nature. Those rectangular objects are actually skylights in the roof, and they've been the source of a lot of leakage over the year. You can see it on the top right-hand corner, that pinkish area. That's the last repair that we attempted on this roof. So it's definitely in need of a replacement or renovation. We've chosen a renovation for the following reasons, and let me take you through the steps. It's a 4-stage process. The contractor will come in and pressure wash the roof, and then we'll take out all the skylights, eliminate them, replace them with like-kind metal. In stage 3, we would reinforce all the seams as well as the fasteners on the roof. This is important because we're attempting to make a seamless roof. And then finally, the contractor will coat it with a highly vibrated aluminum asphalt. And the end result should be a nice seamless roof. Cost of the roof, sorry, I guess that's not my slide, is $29,870. The roof is projected to last at least 12 years, possibly up to 15. The contractor will provide a comprehensive warranty for the full 12-year period that will cover both labor and materials. At the end of that 12-year lifespan, the cost to re-renovate will be about a third, because we'd eliminate the stages 2 and 3 where we didn't have to reseam or replace skylights. And that would give us an additional 12 years. We're asking council to approve weatherproofing technologies as the contractor, and they come under the Associated Educational Cooperative Purchasing Program. State of Florida is one of 27 states that's part of that co-op, and therefore it's almost a state contract price that we have. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from the council? Just what's in the building? What are we keeping there?
So all the
Jason, I'm sorry.
All the equipment for both the golf course and the parks, as well as the fertilizers, chemicals. There's also a mechanics workshop, and it's also a home for the staff, break room and locker rooms and that type of thing.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ms. Dumont?
I would just like to note that this has already been budgeted for $30,000, so you save a little bit away.
Yes, it was included in the capital improvements plan.
Just for everyone else here to know that this isn't coming out new. It's already been budgeted for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Bogusan,
Yes.
Councilmember Demott,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes. Moving on to 46, please.
I move that we authorize funding and a modification to the contract with Petticoat Schmidt for the reconstruction of 4th Street South between 10th Avenue South and 12th Avenue South in lieu of repaving over existing unsuitable base material.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Mr. Stefopoulos.
File this under, you're not sure what you've got until you actually dig down and look at it. The Public Works Department is bringing this item forward tonight because during the course of doing work along this corridor, unsuitable materials have been identified below the existing asphalt that's there. Here to make a presentation on it is Marty and Kyle from the Public Works Department, and they'll walk you through what we found and what the proposed course of action is going forward.
Marty, if you would just mention your name and position when you get started.
Sure. Marty Mortarone, City Engineer, Public Works Department. So basically, as Mr. Stephanopoulos said, we're working on this downtown Phase 3C Project 2 project in the 4th Street South area between 10th Avenue South and 12th Avenue South. And the original plans originally called for a milling and overlay of 4th Street. And so when the contractors start milling with the milling machine, it started tearing up. You know, the asphalt was probably less than an inch thick. And so when we took out all the millings, we ended up taking some lab results, and the LBR of the subgrade was anywhere from 18 to 37, and our minimum for a city of Jacksonville Beach Road is LBR 40. Base is much higher, but just the stabilization was 40. So at that time we pretty much had to stop the job and come to you, council, and ask for additional $60,000 to basically what we want to do is take out the unsuitable material that's there now and put in 6 inches of crushcrete, which is a more structural material than not just lime rock. And so our standard road is a stabilized, 12-inch stabilized sub base on the bottom, 6 inches of crushcrete as base, and then 2 inches of asphalt on top. So that's what we want to do for the entire road. You know, once we got the material, then we figured out that the road must have been an old dust control road that no one had any knowledge of it before we constructed this project and put it out to bid. So this is 4th Street South, and here's 10th Avenue and 12th Avenue. So it's roughly about 650 feet of road surface, 22 foot wide asphalt. And this is what it looked like when we tore it up. You can see barely the little, maybe a ½ inch of lime rock that might have been in there. And then this is kind of what the finished crushcrete pavement will look, and then asphalt will go on top of that to match up with the gutter. So basically what we're doing, we're taking the unit price of the contract and multiplying it by the square yard of base that we need, and then that's where we came up with the $60,000 price. And so we intend to pay for this with funds from the infrastructure surtax fund, and the budget will be adjusted at year end. What we want to do is keep the contractor moving so he's not delayed, so we pretty much had him continue going on with this work in anticipation of getting funding approval.
Is that it, Mark?
Pardon me?
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Dumont?
Yes, thank you. I'm taking it 4th Street. These two sections aren't the only 2 sections that have this issue.
No.
We don't know about the rest of 4th Street or any of the other roads in that area because you haven't dug them up yet.
No, there's probably 5 to 6 miles of dust control roads throughout the city of Jacksonville Beach, but we didn't realize this was one of them.
Okay, but you do know where the other ones are. I think that will all come out in that survey that we're going to be doing with the roads.
Yes, that information will be provided to the consultant that we have to help them, at least let them know where we believe that there's dust control roads. But as part of that, we can take core samples and then we can confirm it ahead of time.
What's the implication for having this kind of a road? Like, do they get potholes quicker? Do they crumble faster? Do they get waves?
Yes, pretty much dust control roads were basically a dirt road where maybe at one time the city just came back and just put maybe an inch of asphalt right over it. But over time that road would deteriorate because of the wear and tear of any heavy equipment or cars, trucks, whatever.
And that deterioration will be at a faster rate than a properly designed and constructed road.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nichols?
Well, obviously, this is at 4th Street, so obviously woman that spoke earlier, it's right by her house as well. Make sure that
Yes.
there's no vibratory compaction.
Yes.
And just make sure that the contractor is not impacting her, and then if there's any other monitoring that needs to be done, make sure that that gets in place.
Okay.
Well, obviously, it would appear that the contractor is, not moving very quickly. Are they expecting any time in addition to the money in order to do this work? Have they asked for anything?
We'll have to probably give them some additional time. I don't believe that they've requested any time extension right now. I mean, they still have about 300 days left in their contract, so.
Yeah, but they still have to do everything on the
Yes,
on the east side
correct.
of 3rd Street, so they
Yes.
have a lot of work to do in 300
Yes.
days.
Correct.
Also, so the unit price that you used was the contract unit price. Did you compare that to like historical unit prices or anything to make sure that's a reasonable cost? I mean, for that area, I guess 60,000
Well,
doesn't seem like.
Yeah, I mean, they were low bidder, so the only option we have is to use their unit prices. I mean, they're pretty much in range with the other contractors.
Okay. And then you said you're putting the 6 inches of the crushed-crete,
Correct.
and then I guess you mentioned there was unsuitable material below it, like the clay or anything, so you're not concerned about the sub-base and having to replace that as well, or with the crushed-crete?
Yeah, well, what it is, that material, you can compact it and get some compaction. It just isn't suitable for the LBR, for the base. So,
Okay.
so we're going to compact that material and then put the crushed-crete on top of that and then the roadway.
But you won't be able to get an LBR 40 with the sub-base, right? If you're at 18 right now, I mean.
Well, they may have to either.
Mix them in, or.
Yeah, well, they may be able to mix part of it in. I think part of the issue is there's some utilities that are real shallow.
Yeah.
So if you can't stabilize them, we'll have the problem of having put additional crushed-crete in, and either mix it in with it or in lieu of the stabilized sub-base.
Okay, I'm just very concerned about keeping this contractor
Yes.
moving forward. I know there's
Right.
just, I don't have a lot of comfort in their pursuit of work at this time, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Devont?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldie?
Yes.
Mayor Lehman?
Yes. And Madam Clerk, if you would please read resolution number 2031-2019 by title only, please.
A resolution of the City of Jacksonville Beach requesting improvements to Penman Road to address pedestrian and bicycle safety, vehicle turning movements at vehicle pedestrian conflict points, drainage, and aesthetics.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2031-2019, requesting improvements to Penman Road to address pedestrian and bicyclist safety, vehicle turning movements, and vehicle/pedestrian conflict points, drainage, and aesthetics.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. This is something that has been going on a long time. We've been working really hard with the city to try and get Penman Road improved, and we know that it is a Jacksonville road, so this is an attempt for us to put on the record from our council to theirs that it's time to step up and do the right thing and help us with the improvements on their road, quite frankly. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Stefopoulos?
I would like to add that we've had conversations with both Neptune Beach and Atlantic Beach city managers. I believe one of them is workshopping the item tonight, and another one is workshopping it later this week. But both of those city managers are in favor of bringing forth a resolution similar to the one that we are passing here tonight. That way the city of Jacksonville can see it's not just one community, it's all 3 beach communities that support this initiative.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Golding, before I give you the floor, we have one card, Elizabeth Knight.
Right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's right. If you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Elizabeth Wright. I'm at 1024 21st Street North, Jacksonville Beach. And this is Kezia. I am so thankful for you guys being willing to put this resolution together. It's something that I've talked to multiple different ones of you about, and also different people in the city of Jacksonville. I'm really excited to hear that there's a resolution that's on the docket tonight, because I do think we need to push this forward. There's momentum in the city of Jacksonville. We need change. You're looking at one of my main reasons. I can't get across Penman Road. My cross street is 9th Avenue North, and my son wants to go across. He's 3. He wants to go look at the water tower. At 3, that's really exciting. We can't get across. We try every day. And I say, honey, I can't take you across the busy road. To me, that's just, it's quality of life. Not only should I be able to get to go look at a water tower, but when that's not exciting, we should be able to get to the beach. So I want to make sure that we actually, after talking to one of the traffic engineers in the city of Jacksonville, I want to make sure that we as a community go ahead and tell them where we'd like those access points, the blinking pedestrian signals that they're willing to put in place, because otherwise they're going to do a traffic study and they're going to say, oh, look, here's where they go, and they don't have vested interest. So I am in favor of putting them at 4th Avenue North, 9th Avenue North, and 18th Avenue North. That's just me. I don't know anything about traffic, but I do know, having lived west of Penman for 36 years, I know where people tend to try to get across. For us at 9th, we have Tall Pines Park, so I've talked to many people in this age range who they can't get their kids to the park, and we can't get our kids to the beach. So to me, it makes perfect sense. I just think that it would be really helpful to just kind of initiate and tell them, here's what we're thinking, here's where we'd like it, and as a community, we do have some backing, both from the city council side. I have actually started a change.org petition, which is up to 277 people. I'd like to see that huge and explode with a lot more people, but to me, 2 weeks, 277 people, those are people who agree with me. That we need safe access points to just push a button and get across Penman Road. So that's probably all the time I have.
Thank you, Ms. Wright, appreciate it. Ms. Golden?
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Stefopoulos for bringing this forward, because we had a meeting with Bill Gulliford and Fred Jones with Neptune Beach, as well as Rory Diamond, because we know we're going to need to get Rory Diamond on board as well, because he's going to be taking over for Bill soon. And I've lived off of Penman Road for about 20 years, and I've lived what Penman Road is like, and like Ms. Wright, I've had difficulty crossing Penman Road, and even biking north and south on Penman Road is not safe. And when I was running for office, I talked to as many people as I could in our district. Penman Road runs right through District 3. And bless you.
Thank you.
And it's a huge issue for District 3. Everybody I spoke with feels that Penman Road is not safe to cross, and lighted pedestrian crosswalks are a huge thing, a great thing that could be done quickly, but then I think there's other things that could be done too that could make the road much better. I would like to recommend a few amendments to this resolution if I could, just because I know that there are concerns in the community about not wanting Penman to be widened. And so I would like to recommend that we amend the second whereas to add on where it says and, that it would say and based on current and projected volumes. There is no justification for widening, nor is this the will of the larger community. That way we're letting Jacksonville know that we're not, when we're asking for improvements, we don't think widening is an improvement. And then the other amendment I would add to the resolution would be in the, on the second page, in the section 2 of the therefore, that at the end of that sentence that we say that basically the sentence should read, the city requests that the city of Jacksonville begin planning and designing for improvements to Penman Road in fiscal year 2020 and include the involvement of all 3 beach communities, because just like what Ms. Wright is saying, I think we as citizens need to have a say in what is happening with those improvements, rather than just expecting Jacksonville to do what we think that they want us to do, or you know, having them do what they think should be done and it not necessarily being what the community is going to be comfortable with.
Could you please repeat your first recommended change?
Yes, the first one would be in the second whereas. At the end of the sentence, we would say, and based on current and projected volumes, there is no justification for widening, nor is this the will of the larger community.
Okay. So at this point, we need to make a motion. We need a motion to accept your new language in a second. So are you?
My motion would be, well, do I need to restate
No,
those?
just you want to include the language as modified for.
Yes,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to
Is there a
include those
second?
2 amendments.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the floor? Ms. Hoffman?
You're including a statement of fact in there, and do we know that that is a fact? That there's no justification based on future and current volumes?
Well, back in 2007, and I know that was almost 12 years ago, Gladding Jackson did a Penman Road study, and at that time they said that the roadway was sufficient and that there was no need to widen the road at all. I know that was 12 years ago, but Fred Jones, who is, he does do roadway planning and that sort of thing. He looked into it, and I believe he's got data about the traffic counts. And I think he was saying it was what, do you remember Mr. Stephanopoulos in the meeting with Bill Gulliver? I think he said, was it 17,000 trips a day?
I don't recall the number of trips per day. I can't recall off the top of my head.
But Mr. Jones did discuss in the meeting with Bill Gulliford, and we also had John Pappas there, who's with the city of Jacksonville's, he's the director of Public Works, and he did mention that the roadway is currently, able to handle, the capacity is sufficient.
So, let me back up and say thank you for doing this legwork, because this has been a topic for a long time, and as someone who lives at the 9th Avenue, access to Penman Road, I definitely feel the pain of even accessing it in a car is difficult, much less as a pedestrian, and I would probably never ride a bike on Penman Road as it exists now, and widening Penman would be a huge deal because there's so much residential property along it, but to add a bike lane to Penman, wouldn't you need more? I feel like those additions might be too detailed and restrictive for the nature of the resolution otherwise.
Well, we actually took the 2007 Penman Road study to the meeting with Mr. Gulliford and Mr. Pappas, and part of that study, it was not adding a bike lane to Penman because that was not considered the safe solution. It was actually adding a bike pedestrian path. So where the sidewalks currently are, sometimes there's sidewalk and sometimes there's not. But it would be putting in like a 12-foot bike ped path that would be separate from pedestrian from Penman Road.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nichols.
Well, I guess just back to that point, did she modify section 3 also, or just the one whereas?
I was recommending section 2.
Section 2?
Section 2 on page 2 and the second whereas on page 1.
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if I have to make another motion, but in section 3, I mean, it looks to me if you're going to add in the 5-year SIP no later than 22, that pushes to 2027. And I mean, I'd like to really push them to like get this in the, like pull it into the 5-year work program, maybe at year 3, or try to shoot for something much less than what's requesting here. I mean, it's something that really needs to be done. It's a safety issue. Do I need to make another motion to add that after this?
If there's an intention, we haven't voted on the first motion yet.
Okay.
And we have to do that before we take on another motion.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vogelsang?
I appreciate the second part of your amendment, Ms. Golding. I have reservations in the second whereas based on what Ms. Hoffman was alluding to, as far as if they wanted to change the dynamic of Penman Road, I don't want to handcuff that anyway. And obviously, if they even remotely discuss widening that, then that's where we can come together to express our dislike for that in the community as well. But I think widening it could include a bike lane or that pedestrian lane, because I think that's what is necessary, what it's lacking. So I would hate for that to be construed as us not supporting something like that, because I think that that would be important, and that's what we're looking for is pedestrian and walkability down Penman, and we don't get that. And I think widening it for that purpose, your amendment doesn't cover it.
Well, maybe I'm not, Mr. Stefopoulos, maybe you can help me. Maybe I'm not using the right terminology, but by widening, I was meaning increasing the lanes on Penman Road. So maybe I need to use a different terminology.
Yeah.
Increasing the number of lanes.
And I completely agree with that. So Mr. Stefopoulos might be a little bit more your expertise if that needs to be cleaned up at all.
What I was just going to suggest was that rather than discussing widening of the road, maybe make a specific statement with not adding additional vehicle travel lanes.
That I would be happy with that.
In essence, that's what the community is saying, is there's 3 lanes on the roadway. 3 lanes is what we believe should be there going forward, and not a 4th.
Okay, so we need to modify your motion, and this is on the second whereas. You want to restate, Mr. Stefopoulos, what your recommended modification would be?
Yes, the second half of that sentence would say, providing adequate vehicular capacity in both directions to all 3 communities and not requiring additional vehicular lanes of travel.
Okay.
Or not adding additional.
Or not adding
Yeah,
additional
not adding
vehicular
additional.
lanes of travel.
And are you satisfied with that change, Ms. Golding? Do you modify your motion as such?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Vogelsang, you
I
second?
support that.
Okay. Okay, so any more discussion from the council on the amendment to the proposal? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? By your action, motion carries. Now, Mr. Nichols, you wanted to make a modification to section 3?
Yes. Just to modify it, we want it into the 5-year SIP, but I'm trying to figure out, I guess, no later than fiscal year 2022. We want the funding, the construction funding within 2022. It just doesn't read. It doesn't read right to me. It reads to me as though they're going to place, within 2022, they're going to add it in the 5-year work program, which would push us out 8 or 9 years. Am I reading that incorrectly?
To answer your question, and I'm glad you asked the question, I can give a little bit of preface to the conversation we had with the City of Jacksonville Public Works Director. Their typical process would be to put the capital construction funding in year 5 of the 5-year CIP and then let it go through its normal progression until it got to the point of construction. What was verbalized to us at that meeting was there would likely be a basis of design or a study done first, followed by the hard design, and that would likely be the years 2020 through 2021 or 2022. So the earliest CIP that they would slot specific designated funds would be the 5th year of the 5-year CIP that would roll out probably in 2022. If there was a desire for this council to push Jacksonville to put funding earlier than the 5th year of the CIP, then you are correct. There should be a specific statement to that effect that you would like it advanced in the CIP as opposed to coming in their traditional 5th year. Otherwise, that is their standard practice for how they budget for CIP.
But there's nothing currently in there beyond 5, right? There's nothing for Pittman Road in their current 5-year work program or I guess they call it beyond 5?
That is correct. They have nothing slated for Penman at this point in time, even from just a basis of design or a conceptual study for the corridor.
Okay, I mean, I would like to modify it to say,
My suggestion, Corey, and you let me know, if you could say, put it in the first half of its 5-year capital improvement plan, so then you would get it in the first 2.5 years of the capital improvement plan, if that's what you were looking for.
well, I mean, I think we need the study and design. So, I mean, we need that funding including as soon as possible. And then whenever that gets done, then you have to talk about the construction. So it's hard to pick a construction date. I mean, how should we modify that to push this? Yes.
One thing I'd like to remind you guys too is that what we're doing is making a respectful request.
Yeah.
You know, we're not giving direction. So, I mean, I'm all for the attention to detail here, but I just also give you a pause to think that they have a process, and it's kind of firing a shot across the bow, let them know that, you know, we've asked and asked and asked, and now we're doing it formally. I don't know if we give too much specific direction, how well it's going to be received, so something to keep in mind.
Or I would just say, or sooner.
5-year capital, into the 5-year capital plan document no later than fiscal year 22 or
covers it.
okay, no later than 22. So there's no modification.
So I'll withdraw my motion for
Okay.
modification.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Any other discussion from the council, Ms. Hoffman?
I don't think, unless I missed it, we didn't really specifically do your section 2 amendment. You only read that.
No, I had both of those in my one motion.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes, and before we adjourn, we agreed at our workshop this evening that we're going to take a step back and look at the comment cards that came through this evening's activity. We've got Ms. Elizabeth Wright, Penman Road improvements, talking primarily about intersections for pedestrian crossing at her recommendations 4th, 9th, and 13th.
Sorry, 18.
Or 18th, I'm sorry, I can't even read my own writing. Ken Marsh gave us a nice story about downtown, and he and his group have put a lot of time and effort into kind of keeping us informed about that one, so I think it's probably pretty appropriate we respond to him as well. William Huff, we had 2 boat parking, boat ramp use and parking. William Huff and William Alley. And I guess you're going to need a little bit of time to wrap your arms around that. You know, we ought to probably respond to them coming and let them know that we're going to look at it a little bit more, because we put a lot of time and money in trying to buy that property all the way back up through. The seller wanted twice what the appraised value was, so we didn't make it very far. So we really haven't taken a look at alternatives. So this might be your opportunity to take a look at couple of alternatives, and it sounds like one gentleman, William Ailey, has some pretty tangible experience in waterfront engineering, so that might be someone to talk to.
Can we also look into enforcement?
Pardon me?
We also look into enforcement. I think that's one of the big issues.
Yeah.
His complaints.
And it may, chime in on that with maybe some signage that those particular spaces are for marine, I guess, not for the restaurant.
I believe
Yeah.
that signage is already there.
If I'm not mistaken, when we approved everything for that restaurant, there was very specifically designated parking areas for the restaurant. The rest was designated as boat parking. So I see the interim chief back there, the acting chief back there.
He already left.
He already left. Okay, it's not his next plane trip. But Mr. Stavopoulos, that's one of those things that we probably ought to talk to, is a little bit stiffer enforcement down there as well. And
Can I make a comment? Oops.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I was contacted by Mr. Ailey, and as a result of that contact, I did ask that Chris Wright forward the contact information to Interim Chief Evans for follow-up. And so I'm hoping that that's already in process. The other thing I'd like to mention that Mr. Ailey also mentioned, but he didn't mention tonight, but when he was talking to me, I think in the past there's been, perhaps it's the property owner that's done it, but the property that we would like to have additional parking, in the past they have been doing paid parking there, but it sounded like maybe that's not always happening. But Mr. Ailey said he'd be glad to pay to park there just to be able to have the opportunity to park. So I think it would be good if, for the short term, we could reach out to the owner of the property to see if they could at least make that property available
I'll make
in that way.
introduction for you. Mr. Stavropoulos, I'll make that introduction for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Ms. Welch, her concerns continue with 12th Avenue South, and we need to keep her updated as to our progress. The one thing that we authorized today, the extension of the Crest Creek in that one section. Marty, there you are, Marty. Sorry, I'm looking right at you. Do we have a time estimate to what it's going to do to the process? Is it going to extend the time a week, a day, an hour?
I'll probably have to get back because I don't think Dennis is prepared to necessarily change order that has all the time.
And that's something we can include in our correspondence to Ms. Welch. Thank you. Okay, so we got Ms. Welch. We got Gerhard Payton. Is it Payton? Paythau.
Paythau. Thank you.
Has some concerns with end zones, pavement signage, and some sidewalk issues. And I'm sure you can take a little bit of time to look into this and respond. And boat ramp parking, we talked about. Okay, parking again, downtown. And Elizabeth Wright, we talked about Penman Road and her recommendations for 4th, 9th, and 18th. Ms. Dumont, do you have anything to add?
Yes, there's a common theme tonight between Ken and Gary with both the maintenance of city properties. I've noticed that we still don't have our street signs replaced after the last hurricane a couple of years ago. And that's both on the beach ends as well as on 3rd. These are roads like if you live here, you know where they are. But I saw something today, I'm like, oh, I'll just wait till I get to the next intersection, make sure I know what number that is. And there was none there, there was none on the next one, there was none on the next one. And I lost count, so it was kind of useless. But we, as a city, we are not doing a good job with maintaining what we have and with upkeep, and just, like I said, the city signs, and that's still missing on the beach, both north and south. So when you have visitors who know that they went on the beach at, they know what exit is, what road that they're staying on, and then they get on the beach and they just don't know where to come off the beach because there's no sign there.
Yeah,
they're a little bit lost.
This the morning walk was kind of eye-opening for me too, because I unfortunately don't have much time to walk downtown and take a look around what's going on down there. But legitimate concerns, and one of the things that certainly Mr. Stavropoulos, I mean, you've been here a month.
Week 7.
Almost 2 months. Your predecessor, who we all know and love, that has been here for 23 years, had a motto or a mantra, and his mantra was, if we're going to build it, we're going to keep it nice. And I think we need to take a deep breath, take a look downtown, and apply that philosophy again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's that we're not allocating enough funding for maintenance throughout the city, or if we're just not maintaining throughout the city, or we're just underfunding. We think it's going to cost one thing and it costs something very different. I was walking, I took pictures, I'm supposed to email them to you. I was walking through Sunshine Park, and I walked around the skate park, and there are pieces on the ledge missing. There are travel, when you go into a park to curbs. There are curbs just kind of piled up. Now, I don't know if they belong somewhere to stop people from flying off of it, or if they're just supposed to be piled up like that. But it's things like this that just make our infrastructure look bad.
Yeah, those, the skaters take those and they pile them up so they got additional stuff to jump, and frequently our maintenance staff are taking and putting them back.
And there's 3 on the south side of the skate park. There are 3, I'm gonna call them ledges, that are on the ground and no longer up there, so you can just skate right off there. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, and again, that's the skaters taking them, moving them down. They do it often. So,
And Jason, to piggyback on that, we had the contractor come out and replace a lot of the wood at Sunshine Park.
yes.
There's still some issues. I don't know if we still have contact with them, or if that was part of their contract to bring everything up to speed. But if you maybe want to have somebody go back through and look through, there's several issues of holes at the bottom of slides in the rubber, and some boards that have come off since they did their replacement work. I don't know if they're still on the hook for that or not, but if they are, then I would encourage you to reach out, say, come back and fix or finish up fixing what you started.
Contractor is under, it's a 1-year warranty. We'll have
That's
him
right.
go out this week. And
Okay, good. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Stefopoulos, he said you want a minute to summarize this?
Yes, I just want to make sure that the engagement that I'm going to have with the residents going forward meets the expectation of council. So the first is with Ms. Welch, and I'll get in touch with her with regard to whether or not the change order has a time extension associated with it, and we've done that. City of Jacksonville will be asking for our community input on what those improvements should look like going forward. And I think that touches on all of them. Does that sound good?
That's it. Ms. Golding, you have a quick comment?
Yeah, just a quick clarification, Mr. Stefopoulos. I believe Mr. Patow was referring to issues that are outside of the downtown, not just in the downtown, so I think we need to be looking at that
We've got a
in
speaker
other
part
parts.
here with some comments.
Yeah, basically our infrastructure maintenance, and I appreciate both of them bringing those issues to our attention. If we don't know about them, we can't fix them. So thank you for calling in.
Okay, good night, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting's adjourned. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Who are you guys?